Hey everyone, today I want to welcome Michael Brenner to my expert interview series. Michael is a content marketing expert. He was the VP of Global Marketing and Content Strategy for SAP and is ranked a top CMO influencer by Forbes and a top digital marketing influencer by Brand24. Michael has been featured in The Economist, The Guardian, and Entrepreneur magazines. He is a best-selling author of The Content Formula, Mean People Suck, and a contributor to Digital Marketing Growth Hacks, a book that was published in 2018. Michael's agency is called Marketing Insider Group. So with that, I want to say welcome, Michael. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Aaron.
Yeah, well, I've got a number of questions. If you're ready, we can jump right in.
Yeah, let's do it.
So Michael, you helped launch SAP's business innovation website in 2012, and you changed SAP's product-centric approach to a more customer-centric approach. Would you mind starting us off just by offering us a sense of your general philosophy and approach to content marketing?
Yeah, I mean, content marketing really wasn't a term widely used at the time. I jumped on the bandwagon just because it made a lot of sense. And for me, the situation we were facing, the challenge that I was asked to solve for was, and this is a true story, the CEO of the company at the time, this really charismatic guy named Bill McDermott, he gave a speech at our annual user conference, and it was so awesome. People like gave him a standing ovation. I mean, he's a really good storyteller. And at the end of the speech, he turned to the CMO and he said, "Why don't we do that in our marketing? Why don't we tell stories like that?" And the CMO turned to me and he said, "This is your new job." And the challenge that I faced was that my own colleagues in marketing, and they were all smart people doing the best that they could, but they were being asked by VPs of product and VPs of sales and executive vice presidents to promote the products that we sold. And so our website and our marketing reflected that. And so, my first, sort of attempt at trying to convince the team to do what the CEO and the CMO had asked me to do, despite their resistance, was looking at, how much traffic were we getting from inbound search? It was very little. Most people coming to our website were typing our brand name into their search engine. It's still true today for many companies. It's why we exist as an agency right now, the problem we solve. But it really took a lot of convincing. And ultimately, I had to go to the sales team and say, that your prospects, that the buyers you're trying to reach, are going to Google to search on, what is this thing and why do I need it? And we're not showing up, but our competitors are. And so I need your support back to the marketing team so that the stakeholders of my colleagues in marketing were supporting this approach. And that's how it finally happened. It was really kind of a case study in building a business case for change. But it really started with, data insights and luckily for me, some help from the CEO.
The next question I had for you is, what would you say are the essential focuses for B2B brands that want to build a high-performing content marketing program like you did?
Yeah, I mean, the way that we did it at SAP was pretty simple. We started with, trying to understand what were the topical elements of our product strategy. What are the topical elements of the products that we sell? What are the themes? And so, sort of like the generic category names. So, we sold analytics, we sold software, we sold cloud computing, we sold big data solutions, but we didn't rank for any of those short tail keywords. And so I think that one of the first things that I advise our clients to do, or we do for them, is to identify sort of like the categories of content you want to publish on based on sort of a grouping of themes that we think your audience is interested in. And the best analogy I use is the newspaper. Maybe we don't read it anymore, but if we go to online news sources, they still, they cover entertainment, weather, sports, politics. There's like a series of thematic, topics that they cover, and they cover them on a frequency, on a regular basis. And so, step number one is identify those themes. And step number two is really to focus on how consistently can we publish content, publish insights, answer questions against each of those themes. And so at SAP, we tried to do one article each week against each of our 4 themes as one example. So that's 2. The third thing is no promotion. This is the biggest challenge that I think marketers face is, trying to sell, and product people want to see sales messages, and salespeople sometimes want to, see the content on their website selling. But it's really when they're educational in nature, when the content is helpful, Google's latest update is the helpful content update. I know we're going to get into that, but we just have to be helpful, non-promotional. That was our only rule really at SAP, was no promotion in the body of the product or of the content, but product promotion was totally allowed on the edges and at the bottom. So those kind of things, I think those are really the key things. I mean, I could go on for days on the core areas of focus, but if you do those three things, I think the themes, the consistency, and no promotion, truly helpful content, you're going to win at content.
What are your top recommendations for promoting digital content?
Yeah, it's when I do speeches and workshops, I always the second to last section for me is promotion or distribution of content. And I start with a slide. It started with HubSpot research like in 2015. I've had to sort of piece together sources since then, but the trend is still the same. 70 to 80% of the visitors to corporate websites come from organic search or direct traffic. Some people call that dark social. It's basically people finding their way to you from a recommendation, from another source, from a social media post. And so really promoting content or publishing content that ranks well in search, that is helpful to your audience so that they share it with their friends or talk about it to other people, that's 80% of the game. What I find is really upside down sometimes is people spend 80% of their budget on distribution, and they're not really focused on creating share-worthy content to begin with, or rank-worthy, search, sort of worthy content. So, focus on the 80% that matters. The other 20% is a little bit of social, a little bit of paid, believe it or not, email, having a newsletter, and like PR and those kinds of things. So, really, again, the point is create content that is found by the search engines and shared by the people that read it. And you're going to capture, you're going to get your content distributed and it's going to get found.
So you were just talking about, maybe somebody that becomes aware of you because they're interested in a certain topic. But once you've captured them and, they do have a problem and maybe they're further down the funnel, how do you then use content to create a sale?
Yeah, so it's really important to map content to the whole buyer journey. The biggest gap that we always see is the really top of funnel educational stuff. And it's kind of where we focus as an agency. We sort of growth hack our way to some middle funnel content. Like, we love to take like webinar recordings and turn them into ebooks and, or vice versa. We ask the client to, turn an ebook we wrote into a webinar. We love to take a series of articles and turn them into ebooks that can be used. We write case studies for clients. One of my favorite one is client stories. So it's less of a choose us because we're awesome and this guy said so or this gal said so. It's more like, hey, let me tell you the story about, this woman over here who solved a problem that you can understand. And sure, by the way, we're the ones that helped her solve it. But the point is, it's a story about her. We make the client the hero. So, creating content, mapping content to each stage of the buyer journey. So, thinking about not just the what and the why, but the how and the who and the when and the where. Good journalists always answer all of those questions. The other thing that just a quick sort of, tip that we always give every one of our clients is build a newsletter, ask every reader to a blog article to subscribe to a newsletter of articles so that they can get an update when you publish something. Once someone subscribes to that newsletter, nurture the hell out of them. Send them, here's my top 3 posts from last year. Here's a video of our founder telling the story about why he started the company. Here's one of our top salespeople giving their pitch. Here's an ebook you might want to download. Let us know if you want to talk to that salesperson who's really, fun and whatever. So I think creating sort of opportunities to nurture audiences when they're at any stage of the buyer journey is really important.
Yeah, and one of the trends right now, of course, is employee engagement. So keeping employees engaged. And how are you doing that by leveraging content?
Aaron, this is like a hot topic for me. So, it's the whole reason I wrote Mean People Suck. It was essentially about the problem of marketers and businesses not seeing the distribution channel that employees really are. And, many companies, like even back when I was at SAP, were like, hey, this team is going to write blog articles. I'm like, don't make them do it. Find find the folks that want to do it, and let's build them up and make great creators out of them. Or let's find the people, the salespeople. The first 50 subscribers to our newsletter at SAP were salespeople, because they understood that sharing our content was a great way to generate leads and sort of engage their audience. So find the creators and the sharers. That's my tip, is find the creators and sharers inside your organization and help them to create and share the stuff that they want to create and share. Not the stuff you want, not press releases, not your annual report, not how awesome you are, but stories, helpful, anecdotes, stats, research. If they write blog posts, that's great. Share those too. If they want to share a press release, that's fine. It's probably not going to get a lot of engagement, but help really build those people up based on their own self-interest. Creating networks for them, helping them to sort of build their own influence, in their industry, I think is really the right approach.
I know your first book really focused on the ROI of content marketing. And so I wonder if you would now give us some metrics that you look at and that companies should focus on to determine if their content marketing efforts are effective.
Yeah, I mean, in the book we talk about 10 formulas for success, and some of them are a little further removed from ROI than others, let's say. So for example, equivalent media value. So, we'll say, how much organic search traffic did you get? What's the average click-through rate of that traffic? And if you multiply them, you get what you would have had to spend to get that traffic if you had to spend money to get it. It's a great way to sort of justify the budget for content marketing, but it's really not ROI. That's just an example of a metric I don't recommend right out of the gate. But there is value to traffic. So are you getting search visibility higher relative to your competition? So organic search, we use SEMrush and Ahrefs to track that for our clients. Is what is your search visibility relative to your competition, and is it rising over time? What is the relative amount of organic search traffic that your website is getting? Is it a thriving, growing brand, or is it a dying, sort of dinosaur? Those are some I think important, reach metrics. Then we look at engagement. There's a lot of ways to look at engagement: social shares, time on site, bounce rate. I don't care about any of those things. I only care, did people subscribe to a newsletter and sign up to get notices about the next time you publish a blog post? There's no better measure of, some people might call that a conversion, but it's really an immediate measure of engagement of your content. So that's reach, engage, convert. That's the easy stuff. That's what all of us modern marketers know how to do. Blog readers converted to contact us, website visitors converted to landing pages, ebook downloads, webinar registrations, event registrations, all of those things. There's plenty of people that are experts in doing that today. So that's reach, engage, convert. And then the final one we often forget about in marketing is retention. And we've done some analysis on this with clients, where we found, and this inbound versus outbound stat has been around from HubSpot for years, but folks that are attracted to your brand through your content, inbound visitors, are much, much more valuable than those that you try to interrupt and sort of convince to buy your products. And so what we found is that customers or revenue that is acquired through content marketing, those people either spend 4 times or stay 4 times longer or more than customers or revenue that is acquired through other means. So, the retention metric, is the lifetime value, is really there for creating helpful content as well.
I want to turn now to a few hot topics and just get your take on these questions. The first one is around the OpenAI project, which recently launched their ChatGPT tool. It got over 1 million users in the first 5 days. So I wanted to ask you, what is the implication of an AI generated tool like that generating content? Are you concerned about its ability to create content at scale and how that might drown out other content or dominate search rankings?
I'd be asleep to say that I'm not interested in it. And maybe a little bit worried, but just enough to be curious to try to figure out, what the answer to your question, basically. Because if it were true, all of the fears, then I wouldn't have a business. And and I'm not worried about this year or last year. I'm thinking more like 3, 4, or 5 years out. So, we actually just published an article a couple of weeks ago about this. We were early beta users of the ChatGPT. We tested Writer, RYTR, a couple other tools. And, what we found is that they're helpful for outlines. The prompts, as they call them, sort of like search queries, can produce decent directions. Right now, I'm writing an article on the top marketing trends for 2023, and I asked ChatGPT what those trends are. I'm going to write an article based on its answer, but I didn't use OpenAI's tool to write the article, if that makes sense. There's a lot of folks, concerned about, plagiarism or, cheating in colleges. OpenAI is talking about putting some sort of a watermark, using sort of like a combination of words or characters so that professors can figure out if things are being automatically generated. Google themselves have said that AI generated content they consider spam. And I trust that they'll be able to figure out what is AI generated. So we're certainly not going to use it. We're not going to recommend people use it. I think the heart of your question, though, is can AI write articles? I think the question is it may at some point. It's always going to require some level of editing, some level of human interaction. There's been a lot of conversation about what it gets wrong. It's really terrible at source, citations and sources. So there's a lot that it can't do, and there's a lot that I don't think it'll ever do really, really well or perfectly. So, I think the answer to the question is, can it be helpful? Yes. Will it replace our jobs? No. And it's like any good technology, we can use it for good or evil. I think, we're trying to figure out what's the right way to use it for good. I don't think that the biggest fears in the world that it's going to, replace all marketers are going to come true in the next 5 to 10 years.
And you mentioned Google. They recently published their algorithm search ranking criteria. What do you think are the implications of this on ranking competition, content visibility, and the like?
I was thrilled with it. I mean, we saw, we have a couple dozen clients. I think every one of them saw a benefit uplift from the Google Helpful Content update because they're creating helpful content. And we have a couple of clients that had some old, really shitty content. We're now going back and helping them update or remove some of them. But there was really no new news in the helpful content update. It was really more of a larger weighting on the stuff we already knew. Like, backlinks have always been important. How do you generate backlinks? Not by paying for them, but by earning them with helpful content. The most linked article on my website is research on how long or how frequently you should publish articles. So create research if you want to get backlinks. Things like freshness. How frequently are you publishing and how fresh is your content? That's always been important. It's just more important, a little bit more important now. So, we've included and have always included a refresh update process within our clients so that in the second year, we start looking back at, articles that had a shelf life and, they're starting to see declining rankings or traffic, and we give them a little bit of a refresh and maybe add a few words or, add some relevant, opinions or facts or stats or links. Relevancy has always been important. Trying to write for search engines has never worked, at least not in a long time. Page speed, like having a good user experience is a good thing. Not having pop-ups pop up, these are things that are not new. So, again, like I think it's actually, we're thrilled because it just is really more support for the kind of stuff that we've been doing. I've really been doing in my career for the last, more than a decade.
You mentioned dark social earlier. Increasingly, people are sharing content and information about products outside of traditional search engines on platforms like Slack and Zoom here, WhatsApp, Discord, and the like. What does that mean for content marketing strategies and performance tracking in particular? And how should brands adapt to that?
Yeah, it's a tough one because the whole concept is you can't really know where it's from. And, Google Analytics lumps it all into direct. Some of the declines in social engagement and social source traffic to websites is because of dark social. I don't believe all of it. I do believe that Twitter, for example, is less effective at driving traffic to corporate websites. Although for B2B, LinkedIn has actually held its own. But direct traffic is really the only thing we have. it's just kind of like, we've always known word of mouth was important. Before there was the web, before the internet was a thing, we had, we understood the power of word of mouth. Like I remember I think it was Pantene. I think there was a shampoo commercial that was, she told 10 friends who told 10 friends who told 10 friends. Like, and we've always known that word of mouth is important. And so again, I think it just gets back to the basic foundation of, instead of trying to game the system, instead of trying to push stuff out, instead of trying to interrupt your audiences, listen to what they're interested in, identify topic models and themes and, content calendars that deliver on those, answers to those questions in as best a way as you can. And the word of mouth, the dark social, the sharing, the engagement will come. And my favorite example of this is we had a client who said, I could spend the same amount, instead of getting 2 articles a week from you, I could get 2 links a week from an SEO agency. And Google said links are really important, so I think I should spend my money over there. And I showed him, I'm like, well, we wrote an article for you last week that in 5 days generated 37 inbound links. So based on that, you owe me 35 times what you spent, charged me last month. Like the point is, good content will generate more links than you could ever pay for, more word of mouth than you could ever pay for. So just focus on creating good content.
Coming into 2023 now, which content marketing strategies should we leave behind? Which ones do you feel we should get rid of? Which ones no longer work?
One of the things I speak about is the definition of marketing. Is that if you ask your mom what marketing is, she's probably going to say, oh, it's a Super Bowl ad. It's, it's the thing I saw on TV last night. It's, it's a pop-up from, Forbes.com. And it's stuff that interrupts us. It's stuff that, we think is sexy and cool, but it doesn't really work anymore. Content marketing is really just, I think, a definition of what marketing really should be. And so I don't think there's content marketing techniques, from that definitional perspective that we need to leave behind. I do think, I spent a lot of time educating people on what marketing really is. And, I don't want to say advertising is bad, because in the consumer world, it's, e-commerce world, it's absolutely, vital. On the B2B side, I think a lot of most brands spend more on paid than they should. I think, getting Kim Kardashian to be your spokesperson is probably not worth the money. I love telling the story of Me People Suck about a professional services company that thought about sponsoring Tiger Woods, and their CEO and CMO thought that $30 million was going to be well worth the investment. And the folks that we worked with showed that for $30,000 they could get a better result. So I think it's not content marketing techniques that we need to leave behind. It's this redefinition of what marketing really should be, and really focusing on just being helpful, attracting an audience, doing the right things, and follow the metrics, follow the ROI. And if we do that, I think marketing is going to be much better off.
I wanted to get your take on what changes you've seen in how people buy and how marketers should respond to those changes.
Yeah, I mean, it just, research just came out, I think last week or shortly before the holiday on, B2B buying. I think TechTarget came out with a study. I've seen, a lot of stuff from McKinsey on post-pandemic changes in the buyer journey. It's the same stuff we were seeing before, and for years since the internet started. Buyers are generating more of they're getting more of their buyer journey completed on their own. They're doing their own research. They're not waiting for a salesperson to take them to a steak dinner. I think 60% was the number that came from TechTarget recently. McKinsey's number was that online interactions were 6 times more important than sales interactions. As a former salesperson, that hurts a little bit. But the point is that we need to arm salespeople. We need to arm our marketing departments with the kind of stuff that answers buyer questions. One of the counterintuitive points to the research is the research, the insight is more people are involved in the buyer journey. The insight behind that stat is those people are less educated about the product. And so, especially in IT, and you talk about startups in like the B2B SaaS world, I'm always telling them, you might think that it's important to explain what your product does, but you're not necessarily selling it to someone who cares what your product does. You're selling it to someone who cares to solve a problem. You're looking to sell it to somebody who wants to see the return on investment, like the CFO. You're looking, maybe it's the CEO who really, really doesn't care. They just need to know, like, do I need this? And, what's it going to get me? And so, answering the more basic questions, corporate executive board, now Gartner, they've done some great research that shows that something like 60 to 70% of the buyer journey is all of that, what they call validation and consensus content. It's stuff that isn't about product. It's convincing someone who's not the direct decision maker, but an influencer, what the hell the product even is and why it exists. So, getting the context, getting validation, getting that larger buying committee on board, those are the biggest trends I think we're seeing.
And as you know, I run a boutique marketing agency. So I'd like to switch focus now and just take this opportunity, having you here, to get your advice about that. I was wondering, can you tell me what's the size of your content team and what does a normal work week look like for you guys?
We set it up when I first started to be, to be able to scale. And so, plus, I found that writers are a finicky bunch. And so, I kind of lost my first two writers in the middle of client engagements. So we are only a team of 4 full-time employees. So it's myself, our client service director, and then we have 2 full-time writers. We have a team of probably 30 now freelancers who are focused mainly on writing. We have one is really focused on SEO, one does paid, one does social. We have a conversion rate optimization specialist. I mean, it's really kind of like an outsourced marketing department for our clients, when they need it and if they need it.
How did you grow your client base and what's your best advice for other agencies seeking to do the same?
Yeah, I mean, if you go to G2, you'll find, I think we're top 10, number 5, I think, rated content marketing agency. And the way that we've gotten there is just by asking our clients, like, if you love what we do, can you just go tell G2? Because people are going there to look for, content marketing agencies. I think we're the smallest by far agency on the top 20, maybe 30, maybe 40 list. But we've gotten there because we've had clients, I think 26 now of our clients have gone there over the last couple of years and given us a 5-star review. So, we ask, do you love what we're doing? And if not, what can we do better? If you love what we do, can you go tell somebody, that back to that word of mouth? Building that growth engine is something that I'm always constantly worried about fixing, tweaking, trying to get what's the best way to grow at the right rate, not too fast, for not too much money, so that we can continue to deliver a great customer experience.
Well, I just want to say thank you. I've been aware of you for some time, Michael, and this conversation has been really rewarding for me personally. Again, thank you for taking the time and answering my questions today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, Aaron.